Hello, friends. A very warm welcome to this brief and very interactive and interesting session on Ansarkari with respect to General Studies Paper 2. And we'll be picking up 4 key questions along with their understanding, and we'll try to bring the essence of the same. First question says that too little cash and too much politics leaves UNESCO fighting for life. That's what happened in the past, and this may happen again. That is why we have picked up this question. Discuss the statement in the light of the US withdrawal and its accusation of the cultural body as being anti-Israel bias. डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन ने पूछ लिया, तो इसको लिखा जाएगा, लेकिन आप इसको कैसे लिखते हैं ये बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाता है, क्योंकि इसको लिखने में ज़्यादा दिक्कत नहीं होनी चाहिए, पर दिक्कत वहीं आती है जब आपको अंदाज़ा हो और फिर भी हम सही से ना लिख पाए. UNESCO, especially UN agency, has been caught in the trap of politics in अब ट्रैप ऑफ पॉलिटिक्स कह सकते हैं. यहाँ पे जियो पॉलिटिकल टेंशन ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट अच्छा वर्ड होता. ट्रैप ऑफ पॉलिटिक्स बोल के हम उसको उसका जो डायमेंशन है वो हम बता नहीं पाते, लेकिन ठीक है, आई एम नॉट सेइंग दैट इट इज नॉट फेयर. तो जियो पॉलिटिकल टेंशन कह सकते हो, वन कैन राइट दैट. ड्यू टू रीअलाइनिंग ऑफ फॉरेन पॉलिसी ऑब्जेक्टिव्स ऑफ कंट्रीज गिवन changing domestic regime, especially with Donald Trump coming to the power again in the US. बिल्कुल आपने सही कहा. उसकी जगह आप ये भी कह सकते हो कि मतलब कि पावर पॉलिटिक्स है, लॉबी है. हो सकता है यूनेस्को तो एंटी इजराइल बायस नहीं है यूनेस्को का, लेकिन डोनाल्ड ट्रंप या कोई भी पावर ऐसा सोच सकता है व्हेन दे फील देयर इंटरेस्ट आर नॉट मेट. As a result, the struggle for survival has never been real, with funding associated with the cost and benefits instead of responsibility to conserve and uphold global rights of children and societies world over. This has put the relevance of UNESCO under question. US has recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel with less global acceptance. This has led to increased cultural claims on Al-Aqsa Mosque situated in Jerusalem by Israel and Palestine. US decision to withdrawal will thus impact on funding and functioning of UNESCO. Multilateral reforms like UNSC in ensuring increased representation of countries from global south. Therefore, UN 2.0 is needed to overall its effectiveness and moving towards balanced growth. I think wonderfully written, a lot of ideas touched upon, and bringing the idea of Al-Aqsa Mosque, and also speaking about that what US demands. So I think this is a fairly well written and a basic 2-layer question we would say. और जहाँ तक इसमें बात ये है, तो इसमें आप लेके आ सकते हैं कि यूनेस्को के बारे में हम 1-2 लाइन बोल सकते हैं कि आपने बताया भी है कि कैसे चिल्ड्रन और सोसाइटीज की बात करता है. बेसिकली जो ग्लोबल कल्चरल फ्यूचर जनरेशन का जो आउटलुक होना चाहिए उसको डिफाइन करता है. वो एक तरीके का फ्यूचर फ्यूचर सोसाइटी, फ्यूचर जनरेशंस कैसे होंगे. तो आई थिंक, बट इन द एग्जाम लाइक कंडीशन आई वुड नॉट से कि one has not tried. So a little bit of more pressure, little bit of more clarity can help us to bring 1 or 2 more points. That's all I would say. Otherwise, क्योंकि कल्चरल बॉडीज को कहा गया है, तो क्योंकि वर्ल्ड हेरिटेज साइट्स भी यही बात करती है, तो हम 1-2 पॉइंट्स कर सकते हैं बस. Again, this is a very fact-based question on what grounds People representative can be disqualified under the Representation of Peoples Act 1951. Also mention the remedies available to such persons against disqualification. So I think a very fair and direct question. This showcases that even in the mains examination, there is the importance of revision, there is importance of picking up straightforward topics which are given in the syllabus. RPA 1951 provisions to disqualify a representative ensures implementation of the 10th schedule, essence in letter and spirit, to uphold democratic values. The ground for disqualification includes unsound mind to transparently fulfill the duties and constitutional mandate, undischarged solvent when income and assets mismatch, conviction of 2 years and more leads to disqualification of 6 years and release. After release, the remedies available is appeal in higher judiciary verdict, fight the elections again to get elected as people's representative. Therefore, disqualification becomes important with the increased horse trading and defeating the purpose of elections and democracy over personal gains for seeking a position of power as a minister. अच्छा लिखा, लेकिन मैं फिर भी सजेस्ट करूंगा इसमें हम आरपीए एक बार पढ़ लेंगे तो हम 2-3 बस की फ्रेज लेके आ सकते हैं. बाकी एसेंस इज ऑलवेज देयर, और आरपीए बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. इट इज अ स्टैंडर्ड पार्ट ऑफ द सिलेबस. In context of neoliberal paradigm of development planning, multi-level planning is expected to make operations cost effective and remove many implementation blockages. तो multi-level planning आप कैसे interpret करते हैं, that will decide your answer. The planning model in India has taken a cusp with multi-year and multi-level planning models with institution of Niti Aayog. The multiplier effect, our results are as follow: transparency in tracking the progress, the cost through implementation, PM Gati Shakti and Pragati app. Coordinating plans result in sync function of states and union. Uttar Pradesh targets 1 trillion GSDP with moves in tandem with the 30 trillion target by 2047 of the union. सो मल्टी लेवल प्लानिंग बोल रहा है तो आप मतलब ठीक है स्टेट सेंटर का भी आपने दिया, लेकिन मैं तो कहूँगा आप ग्राम पंचायत या फिर आप अर्बन म्यूनसिपैलिटी और फिर उसके बाद स्टेट और डिस्ट्रिक्ट, उसके बाद डिस्ट्रिक्ट के बाद स्टेट, स्टेट के बाद सेंटर, मल्टी लेवल प्लानिंग। तो कोई ऐसा बड़ा ले सकते हैं हम जैसे ट्रांजिट ओरिएंट डेवलपमेंट होता है, या जैसे किसी राज्य में फॉर एग्जांपल इन दीज डेज वी से कि रेलवेज आर मेट्रो इज कमिंग अप, फॉर दैट मैटर बुलेट ट्रेन भी एक मल्टी लेवल प्लानिंग का एग्जांपल है, बिकॉज उसमें इंटरनेशनल भी है, नेशनल भी है, स्टेट भी है, उसके अंदर जो है विलेज पंचायत भी है, एंड देन अर्बन म्यूनसिपैलिटी तो आई जाएगी। So the question says that neoliberal paradigm. So what is neoliberal paradigm of development planning? That is also we need to express. So neoliberal paradigm means India is becoming one of the largest manufacturers of, for example, smartphones. It is going to overtake China. So this is an example of neoliberal paradigm. Or for that matter, Asia's largest tires, Asia's largest manufacturing hub of tires is in Tamil Nadu. So that hub is getting not only foreign direct investment, but it is also getting players pumping in more and more because world class infrastructure is there, good hospitals are there, teaching avenues are there, schools and everything is there. So that becomes a kind of example of how blockages are removed. Or for that matter, take example of say for example, I would say, so for if I again take Ludhiana for that matter, तो वहाँ पे मल्टी लेवल प्लानिंग चाहिए because Ludhiana is already a cluster. But is Ludhiana using the same kind of and the same level of technology and also labor like the way we are competing with Vietnam? Because when it comes to textiles, then Vietnam is our greatest competitor in one sense. Bangladesh is slowly down, but then someone getting down doesn't mean you automatically get benefit. Or for that matter, in case of for example, oil imports. So we say examples of Indonesia and Malaysia. So are we, competing and creating that structure over here? So this is how we need to bring, because our answers have reached a certain level. These answers are very fantastic as far as bringing the demand of the question is concerned. But then now we must think how we can be out of the box, how we can bring something so amazing that our whole effort in making a person understand, because it is asking for multi-level planning. We are writing about multiplier effects. So when we move on and see, when we read, then we find that PM Gati Shakti and all that you have said. Then you have also talking about alignment with devolution of funds by finance commission as per the need making operated. So you should speak about smart city, or for that matter, har ghar jal. That is also an example, because हम जब नल पहुंचाएंगे हर घर, then labor will be becoming more efficient because females and children will be free to do their respective jobs. Children may be going to school, but now they have to wait for water, and then they may be going far away to fetch the water. So that cost you are actually reducing. So aspirational block, already you are talking about it. So I think two layers have been completed. Sector specialized planning. So this is our safe zone. This is not a bad zone where we are talking about energy 30 gigawatt and 500 gigawatt 2030. Rationalization and redistribution of resources has been there. So, for example, you can think about say Assam. So, think about Assam and bring say petrochemical complex, how it is changing the whole economy of a certain state, and how there is, for example, Panipat refinery. Panipat refinery is one of the highly advanced, and Panipat refinery is highly advanced, and also what I should say model for rest of some of the refineries in India. Or for that matter, we can take up say when we speak about say connectivity. If I speak about even Tamil Nadu only, then there are 3344 ports which are connected with Tamil Nadu. So the good connectivity, infrastructure. So rather than writing Gati Shakti, move forward. सागर माला भी लिखने से अब नंबर नहीं आएगा. सागर माला भी सब लिख चुके हैं, भारत माला भी सब लिख चुके हैं. So we can speak about something. We can connect it with the example. Say for example, Goa. Goa is one of the important examples. I'm generally speaking, you can write confidently whether it is iron export or whether it is export of marine products. Simple. Nothing I'm asking technical. So I think wonderfully written. But then because we have been this is a very important and a rigorous exercise. So I'm just trying to create more avenues. because that will only help us to understand where we reach and we can do better. Next question is about what introduces friction into the ties between India and United States. Is that Washington is still unable to find India a position in global strategy which would satisfy India's national self-esteem and ambitions? Wonderful. Today, I would say in these days only, this question 100% is going to come up in some other different words. US is the world's largest economy, no doubt, and with India catching up slowly and steady. But rather than that, India is world's one of the world's most, I would say, most important and realistic representation of democracy. No country is like India in the world in terms of democracy. If US stands for free, fair, liberal values, then India is part of that scheme. So the mismatch with America is that America, in order to maintain its hegemony, it it becomes transactional. For example, what you are writing is US recent reorientation towards MAGA is an indicator of capitalist mindset with the prioritize of self-interest. Very true. On the other hand, India holds the vision of ethical growth compounded by Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. That is not still today. That is the time when we had, even when we had non-aligned movement. We have suffered a lot. Now we cannot suffer. We are far ahead. Even if I talk about today is only development. For example, if the US is going to put 25% tariff and plus penalty, then this is not a just one thing day. Then India will be thinking very, very hard and very broad. India cannot be co down, and other things also cannot be created overnight. Whether it is a development of I should say new and new projects in the places where US thinks that it can earn a lot, whether it is Ukraine's rare earth or whether it is Pakistan's oil fields. It is going to take more than two decades. It's not so easy. So that is why when you are speaking about the gap in the US's global strategy meets India, increased protectionism amid tariff to promote domestic manufacturing and exports, removed India from GSP, India's skilling and investment driven model under Make in India, blocks UN reform to maintain its veto power. India calls for UNSC reforms to give a voice to global South, and don't doesn't can contribute to adequately to climate finance to aid developing nations. India, one of the countries who is on track to meet SDG in Panchamrit targets, maintains hegemony in global order. It is maintaining hegemony, but then if US is going to behave like this, then a great disservice it is doing to its long-term reputation. US reputation is tarnished, first of all, which is very, very difficult to, create. So reputation once finished of the US, then it will not be able to contain China the way it wants. So this is foolhardy in one way. So that is why you have written well. And the gap has created friction with India creating its own space and global identity without endorsement or support of US. I think perfectly written. Nothing to say wrong, but then I want one more level. There is need for simplification of procedure for disqualification of persons found guilty of corrupt practices under RPA. Again, RPA very, very important. So the present procedure of disqualification under RPA includes multi-layered procedure lead to unwanted delays and defeats the purpose of its as claimed by ARC. Need for simplification, the number of disqualification is less as proportion of complaints. Involvement of multi-stakeholders like advisor of ACI conducting inquiry, share binding opinion with the president or governor. Amid the process, representatives' role continues and function as earlier without causing things that distorts facts and hamper fair inquiry. So one we have to bring we have to bring just one example over here. ECI is the regulator to conduct free and fair election. The role to inquire the complaints direct diverts the focus from core responsibility, impacting efficiency with workload. Also, HCI does not have the expertise to investigate such matters. Therefore, simplification of the procedure is the need of the hour, with the role being redistributed to Lokpal, Lokayukta in corruption cases. I think all ideas are very much represented, but then we have to bring one or two such examples where the leaders, who have suffered or who are put into this zone and how the then reaction comes up. अब हम हिंदी में देखते हैं कि किन आधारों पर किसी लोक प्रतिनिधि को लोक प्रतिनिधि अधिकार 1951 के निर्हित किया जा सकता है। उन उपचारों को भी उल्लेख कीजिए जो ऐसे निर्हित व्यक्ति को अपनी निर्भरता के विरुद्ध उपलब्ध है। स्वतंत्र और निष्पक्ष चुनाव कराने का कार्य चुनाव निर्वाचन आयोग संविधान 324 संसद द्वारा अधिनियम RPI 1950 RPI 1951 के आधार पर किया जाता है। चलिए आगे। अयोग्य ठहराने के आधार, चलिए आगे चलिए, आगे चलिए, कैन मूव फॉरवर्ड प्लीज। रो तो रही है। अयोग्य ठहराने के आधार, अनुचित आचरण, संपूर्ण संपत्ति का ब्यौरा न होना, भ्रष्टाचार, मध्यस्थता, रिश्वत देकर मतदान कराना, किसी मामले में दोषी मिलने का 2 साल की सजा। हमने ऊपर भी ऐसा ही पढ़ा था, ईवीएम के साथ छेड़छाड़। तो ठीक है, थोड़ा सा बस इसको कंक्लूजन पॉइंट तक लेके आना है, एक बार वो देखेंगे तो। जब आप भारत के द्वारा विकास योजना की जो बात हो रही है, विकास योजना की बात हो रही है, 1991 के एलपीजी बदलाव के साथ नव उदारी प्रतिमान के आधार पर विकास प्रारंभ किया। बाजार उन्मुख सुधारों के साथ 1998 में परमाणु हथियार संपन्न देश, ठीक बात है। सार्वजनिक और निजी भागीदारी के माध्यम से कोऑपरेटिव शासन के साथ विकेंद्रीकरण को अपनाया, ठीक बात है, बिल्कुल सही बात है। कार्यकारी बाधाओं को दूर करने के लिए योजना आयोग, नीति आयोग के निर्माण जो बहु में विकास महत्वपूर्ण आया है। पारदर्शिता और जवाबदेही सुनिश्चित करने के लिए सीसीआई द्वारा प्रतिस्पर्धा को प्रोत्साहन अपनाना, ठीक पॉइंट्स है। लेकिन जैसे मैंने कहा, पूरा एकदम शुरू करके आंसर को उसको उसमें लेके आना होता है।
जी सर।
ओके, सो आर वी डन विद द क्वेश्चंस प्लीज?
हाँ जी।
थैंक यू। मानसी, व्हाट डू यू से?
सो कुछ क्वेश्चंस में जहाँ पे स्कोप होता है थोड़ा और इनोवेटिव लिखने का, जैसे मल्टी लेवल प्लानिंग वाले में था, तो उसमें यूनिक ही सोचना है इंस्टेड ऑफ जो बेसिक वाले, वो तो आने ही चाहिए, तो
आ
यूनिक
जाएगा
एग्जाम।
और
तो हाँ।
आप एग्जाम्पल ही सोचिए, मेरी मानिए।
हाँ जी।
हब सोचिए, हब क्लस्टर सोचिए।
हम्म।
क्लस्टर, एनी क्लस्टर, कांडला पोर्ट है, या फिर आपका सिडकुल है उत्तराखंड में, या फिर आपका कोई भी इंडस्ट्रियल जोन सोचिए।
जी।
पीथमपुर है इंदौर के पास।
हाँ जी।
have to be smart. I think so. That is, I
हाँ।
think, one of the best bets.
हम्म।
क्योंकि इसका तो स्कोर आना है तो आएगा।
हाँ।
लेकिन अगर इससे मान लीजिए हमें दिक्कत हो रही है, तो फिर हम क्या सोचते हैं, हम इनोवेटिव लेके आएंगे। फिर इनोवेटिव
हम्म।
से स्कोर बढ़ता है, मान लीजिए उसमें भी गॉड फॉरबिड अगर किसी को उसमें भी गैप है, तो कम से कम फिर उसको स्ट्रक्चर किया जा सकता है।
हाँ जी।
तो जितना आदमी पॉजिटिव एक्सपेरिमेंट करके ऊपर उठ सकता है, पहले उसको उठाना चाहिए। फिर कई बार
हम्म।
होता है कि लगता है यार हाँ बताया सब कुछ, हो सकता है थोड़ा और सिंपल बताना है, फिर वो हो सकता है। लेकिन अगर मान
हम्म।
लीजिए नहीं बताया,
हाँ जी।
आप नहीं बता रहे हैं, तो ऐसे चांसेस बहुत थोड़े हैं कि आप अचानक से अगली बार जब मौका मिलता है किसी को, कभी भी कोई चीज करता है, तो अचानक से 100% चेंज कर देगा, नहीं होता।
ना वो नहीं हो सकता।
टेम्पलामेंट जो टेम्पलेट होता है वो हमेशा पहले की चीज को दूसरा बना,
हम्म।
या पहले से मैक्सिमम माइलेज लेनी चाहिए, उससे कई बार दूसरी बार करने की जरूरत भी
हाँ नहीं है सर।
नहीं है। तो दैट इज व्हाट आई बिलीव। वही बात है कि प्रिवेंशन इज बेटर देन क्योर।
हाँ जी सर।
तो इसीलिए डू ब्रिंग वट एवर पॉसिबल, डू नॉट लुक फॉर परफेक्ट आंसर,
हाँ जी। हाँ।
लुक फॉर दैट दिस इज व्हाट आई फील।
जी।
Because if you look for perfect, then always a person thinks later on कि मैं ऐसा भी कर सकता था, मैं वैसा भी कर सकता
हम्म।
था। Try
हाँ।
to express completely, so that you a person becomes very confident whether score is high or whether score is low. At least person knows कि मैंने क्या किया.
हाँ जी।
The problem comes up when person remains mediocre. Score also comes low.
हम्म।
Person is also confused. Then problem becomes compounded. It's very very difficult.
जी।
So let's do not get into that thing. Let's
हम्म।
go. Let's go by highway and not by Google.
जी। हम्म।
Google says there is a shortcut,
हम्म।
and you know what Google can do.
जी।
So we are not Google. That's why we say अपने दिमाग का वाईफाई फास्ट करो.
हम्म।
Thank you. Okay, Divya.
सर कंक्लूजन की तरफ भी लेके जाना है सर, आरपीए एक्ट है सर,
बिल्कुल.
स्टैंडिंग के साथ
हम्म,
एग्जाम्पल्स के ऊपर फोकस करना चाहिए, स्टडीज है सर।
बिल्कुल. Thank you very much to all of you for bringing such simple but yet very innovative and important ideas. And I'm sure when they are brought in answers, they will bring success to all of us. And that's how we can make things meaningful and contribute smartly. Thank you very much for being with Ansarkari.